Yes! Welcome into Sportsbet Betting Insight today, Monday, December 19th. Pauly and Teddy. Big show coming up. Big game breakdown Monday Night Football, Panthers and the Redskins. A stat on the Redskins you will not believe. Back to the Bulls. We got Western Kentucky and Memphis and BYU and Wyoming. College football recap. A lot of unders over the weekend. We'll get to that at the deep dive. And as always on a Monday, can't wait. We start with the NFL. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Now we start with this NFL Sunday, Teddy, where this was in through the back door. All the late money exchanged hands on some of these late covers, and it was also the pros against the Joes. Let's start there, where you had a lot of games where the professionals were going against the amateurs. Who got the best of that battle?
It was pretty mixed. I mean, there was legitimately 6 games where you had the pros on one side and the Joes on the others. Chargers, Raiders, we'll talk about that in a minute. Both sides were able to cash that ball game. With the Bengals, Steelers, the Joes got that one. The Joes got Broncos, Patriots. But the pros took the money. Let's see, they had Philadelphia plus the points. They had Chicago plus the points against Green Bay. And yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars even covered a spread in a pro-Joe divide game show. So, sharps and squares, interesting to discuss, but man, there were some tough beats on Sunday. In my mind, that's the bigger story.
You got that right. Let's start with the Chargers. Lambeau misses an extra point. Raiders win by 3. It's a tie game late, and then the Chargers fumble. The Raiders really struggled on offense for most of the game, and that was definitely a road game for the Chargers. In practice last week, they were piping in crowd noise.
The Raider fans, and the Raider fans were a lot louder than the Charger fans when something good happened as well. But, I mean, this is a brutal beat for San Diego. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. You know, you have the missed extra point, which has huge point spread implications. Then you have the fumble at your own 12-yard line with your, 8th string running back after all the injuries they've suffered at the RB position. I mean, the defense, they had a great goal line stand, but Janikowski's 4th field goal, good enough to cover the number. And, of course, the line bounced +3, +2.5, both during the week and on game day. So this was not a good result for the house. Lots of sports books taking it on the chin in that ball game. And whichever side you had, you're not supposed to lose that. You're supposed to either win or push. I mean, the Raiders went 1 for 7 in the red zone, Pauly. 1 touchdown and 7 red zone tries. They turned it over in the red zone multiple times, and they still got the money as chalk. What do we call that, my friend? Inconceivable.
There it is. Yeah, look at the picture. Look at the guy. Yeah, awesome. Hey, another brutal beat. Steelers, Bengals over 44.5. Bet up to 45.5 and 46 in some spots. The two teams combined to go 3-9 in the red zone. The Steelers kicked 6 freaking field goals, and then to top it off, they missed the 2-point conversion at the end.
Oh, my God. But more than that, I mean, they get the winning touchdown. They missed the 2-point conversion, so they're at 44. And then Pittsburgh goes on this long, time-consuming drive, and they get the ball down to the 4-yard line. They would have been in a position to kick a field goal. They might have been in a position to score a touchdown. Instead, they take a knee on the Cincy 4. Ouch, that hurts. You got over 44.5 in your pocket, and that game lands 44? That's a tough beat, man.
Backdoor Bears, the wise guys all over it. Green Bay up 17, but Barkley comes back for the Bears.
Yeah, and this is one we have to give ourselves some pat on the backs on Sportsbet. We told you about Ty Montgomery last week on this show. 16 for $162 and a couple of touchdowns. We told you about Matt Barkley 2 weeks ago, and he does it again. 30 completions for 362 yards. But for Packer backers, they still had a chance at the end when Jordy Nelson catches the ball in stride and he tripped. If Jordy keeps, if he keeps his feet on him, he gets into the end zone there, and it's not a game-winning field goal. It's a game-winning touchdown. But the Bears, the rarest of the rare, a -4 turnover margin. They still get the money. Pauly, is this one inconceivable too?
Yes, it was. This here's that one was brutal. Here's another one. How about the if you had the Ravens? They are up 10 points with 6 minutes left, and they're in the red zone. And then Flacco with a horrible interception. After the game, Harbaugh said it was the worst play call ever. And then they come all the way back. Oh.
And then, of course, not that it would have made a difference necessarily against the spread, but it could have had the game gone into overtime. But Philly goes for 2 at the end of the game. Anytime you have the underdog, that's your best thing you can hope for. You got Philly plus the points. Go for 2. You don't care, win, lose. have it a 1-point game, and especially if they don't make it, all right. I mean, it mattered more in the no, it mattered more in this game. There was still time left on the clock here, but in the Titans game, it was a similar story. We'll talk about that in a minute. But when the other team, especially if you don't make it, the other team's not going to try to score. Best case scenario, you don't want overtime. But tough beat, another through the back door. Philly gets the money. They do not, however, get the victory.
Yes, and I like the decision going for 2. Peterson said, what the hell's the difference at that point? Yeah,
I agree.
But Ravens should have covered. That was a horrible interception. Now to the Titans. The Titans go for 2. There was 3 minutes left, but they were out of timeouts, but then it worked out. But this one was on Andy Reid. They score the early touchdowns. He sits on the lead. It's 4th and 1 from midfield. Tennessee has 1 timeout. He doesn't go for it. And then it's 3rd and 2. He goes conservative again. And then he suck-up misses. He's short from 53. Whoops, Reed called a timeout to ice him. He gets the do-over. He makes it. The Chiefs blew it, and they blow the 2 seed in the process.
And how many times have we seen that where you're trying to ice the kicker? Let the kicker go from 53 at the end of regulation. I mean, it's a baffling one for me, but KC was up 14-0 before he could blink in that game. Big plays. Tyreek Hill gets a big play touchdown. Gee, we talked about him on Sportsbit last week. And then Macklin with the big play on the following drive. And KC with a chance to really stick their foot into Tennessee and control the game. And from there on out, the aggressive play calling early, well, not when they had the lead. It stopped right away. And obviously, Titans come through the back door in that one. But what about the Steelers? I mean, they were dead. They looked awful. The Steelers were, in my mind, I think Tennessee, I don't know, we could have a debate as to which one the worst beat of the day was. But Pittsburgh coming through the back door with Cincy just giving it to them. The 4 penalties on defense on 4 plays with the game on the line in the 4th quarter. And Books took a beating on that one, Pauly. They took a beating for the game. They took a beating on the second half line because there was nothing but Pittsburgh money at halftime.
Yeah, we also told you Friday the Chiefs, horrible when having to win by margin. They couldn't do that. Now, are we calling this
0-5. They're 0-5 this year. They're trying to lay in 3.5 or more.
Yes, and I don't know if we can call it a bad beat because it's Matt Stafford on the road against a good team. But the interception late in the end zone, they still needed a field goal in that point. But you're thinking if they score a touchdown, go for 2. The Lions had a chance to get in the back door, but the Lions did, but the Giants get the W. Great defensive performance.
Yeah, sure. But, I mean, again, we talk about fumble luck. Here's a great tweet from Michael David Smith saying, the Giants and the Lions both fumbled into the end zone first half of that game. The Giants recovered both times. The bounce of a football can change a season. Sure can when it comes to fumble luck. Giants had it on Sunday. Lions didn't. But as you mentioned, Stafford with that late end zone INT, I understand he's trying to be aggressive. You can't be that aggressive in that spot when you can kick a field goal and you need 2 scores.
Nope. You see this? There it is. 1. That's how many wins Stafford has in his freaking career on the road against teams that finished the season with a winning record. 1. You heard me. Hey, how about the loudest ovation of the day? It might have been as for the Texans for Savage as they finally benched Osweiler. Good job, O'Brien.
Oh my God! I mean, maybe that was the loudest crowd cheer I heard all day. Was the Texans fans when they realized that Brock Osweiler had been benched and Tom Savage was in the game? They went nuts. And of course, the Texans ended up going on a long drive that got down to the half-yard line, and then stalled with Savage. But they did eventually rally to win that ball game. Crowd excited, Texans fan excited, and of course, we get to kiss Gus Bradley goodbye. Pauly, hop on the bus, Gus. Look at the ESPN Stats and Info tweet. Worst winning percentages in NFL history. Minimum of 50 games. You don't want to be number 2 on that list. Yeah, and that's where Gus Bradley will remain. I don't know that he ever gets another shot as an NFL head coach.
14-48 is his record. How about firing a guy with 2 games left?
In terms of, at this stage, I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I have no problem with it. Rather than having it hanging over your head for the last 2 games, let him go. Let him go home for Christmas. Let the players...
They did nothing on offense. Remember, their points they scored, it was a gift from Osweiler, who threw 2 interceptions deep in his own territory, and then the touchdown was off a kick return by Lee. I think their first kickoff return in 9 years. That's how Jacksonville scored. They couldn't do anything on offense.
They sure couldn't, Pauly. Speaking of couldn't do anything on offense, hey,
Yeah.
Pauly, how about that huge impact Adrian Peterson had on Sunday? You were talking last week that AP was going to be a difference maker. And, of course, the money came in on Minnesota. Vikings bet up to -5.5 with the news that he was active. Well, look at this tweet, ESPN Stats and Info. The Vikings ran 13 offensive plays in the first half. In a half of football, they ran 13 offensive plays. That's the fewest plays in half since the 2012 Falcons had 13 against the Panthers. And, oh, by the way, those 13 offensive plays didn't produce any points. They're down 27-0 at the break.
How about that? They're still in this. They get Peterson back. He only had 6 carries. He had a fumble. The first half yards were 281 to 69, and the first downs were 21 to 2. We thought the Colts were playing out the string. That was embarrassing.
That was an Andrew Luck game, and let's give Indy credit. Making themselves relevant in an AFC South that we've hated all year, and all of a sudden 3 of the 4 teams are at 500 or higher.
Yeah, right. All right, that was fun. Big game breakdown up next. A stat you will not believe on the Redskins. Monday Night Football and 2 bowl games. Then we'll get to college and recap the bowls there. It's coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
All right, back on SportsBit. Betting Insight today. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard, at Teddy_covers. Monday Night Football. Panthers, Redskins. Washington 7, 50.5 the total. Amazing but true. The Redskins have lost 15 of their last 16 home games on Monday Night Football. You cannot be serious. But they have a path here. If they win out, they're in the playoffs. They really need that Tampa Bay loss Sunday night, and they got it. They have the weapons. Cousins having a good year, especially with Jordan Reed healthy and Williams back too. See if they can get it done against the Panthers. But big question with the Panthers, Teddy. They showed up against San Diego. Good effort. Will Kuechly play?
Well, that is a big question, but, I mean, you have defensive concerns for both of these teams. Washington's offense has been really good all year, and we've talked about the Redskins' ability to put the biscuit in the basket, and they did it again last week with a late touchdown. They've been running the football, late touchdown to cover against Philly. They've been running the football effectively, and Cousins, with now, as you mentioned, Jordan Reed healthy and good to go tonight, has nearly his full complement of weapons. And team's got a lot of weapons. But that Redskins defense, they've only held one team under 20 points all season. They have not been strong at anything. Look at the Football Outsiders graphic. Overall, number 26, number 22 against the run, number 27 against the pass. They're bottom 5 on third downs. They're bottom 5 in the red zone. Those are some bad defensive numbers for a team asked to lay a touchdown. I mean, at least they're going to get focus from Josh Norman tonight. The Panthers decided to let him go. Didn't pay Norman the money, and he's going to be come in, I'm sure, with a chip on his shoulder. Quote, "It's going to be a different feel, I can tell you that. I think come Monday night, those emotions will come out and show themselves." Yeah, Norman's got something to prove, but Kuechly, as you mentioned, nothing but questions about whether he's going to be able to go. He's, do you want a guy who could potentially suffer another injury and have more concussion problems and risking him in games that don't matter in a playoff picture? And that's the question, because I'm sure he wants to go, and I believe he passed a concussion protocol.
There's no reason to put him out there. But here's Rivera, quote, "We're excited to have Luke healthy and cleared from the protocol. I know he's extremely motivated to get back on the field and help us win games. Whether he plays this week or not, I don't know. We have to balance our enthusiasm with what's best for Luke and the team long term," end quote. Well, what's best for Luke and long term is to sit him because you're out of it. Doesn't make any sense to put him out there.
That being said, big-time players like to show up for big-time games. And when you have a healthy guy, if he's healthy and he's passing concussion protocol and he's a team leader, he says, "I want to go," I think you put him on the field. And I mean, Carolina last week, a lot of it was turnovers against San Diego. The offense was able to throw the football around a little bit, better than they had been. They still have concerns on the offensive line, and they're still going to need stops, so they're going to hang around in this ball game. Kuechly, obviously a guy who helps them get those stops.
Well, remember, he was crying when they carted him off the field. I think the last time he was in the protocol was like 45 days. So you want to talk about what could be scrambled eggs. Doesn't make any sense to me. What do you think of the total? That's a high total.
It is, especially given Carolina's offensive line concerns, but Washington's going to chuck the football around. Carolina's going to chuck the football around. And this is a type of game where you could have more than your average number of big play TDs. That concerns me if I was looking at the under.
All right, game number 2, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. Bowl season continues. Memphis, Western Kentucky, Boca Raton Bowl, 4 o'clock Pacific on Tuesday. Western Kentucky, 5.5, 79 the total. Mike White loves to whip it down the field, 4,000 yards, 10.4 per attempt, 34 touchdowns, and great weapons on the outside. Taylor and Norris. Taylor, 89 catches, 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns. Norris, 73 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 13 touchdowns as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dynamic duo of wide receivers for the Hilltoppers and Taylor and Norris. Taiwan, I mean, between them, about 160 catches, close to 3,000 yards, 29 touchdowns. That's impressive, and no wonder Mike White has those type of big numbers. He's got the right guys to throw to, and of course, when you have two on the outside who can make plays, that opens up room for your running back. Anthony Wales had a Western Kentucky all-time school record, 24 touchdowns this season, 6.8 yards per carry. So, you got Jeff Brom already at Purdue right now for Western Kentucky, and that is an issue. We saw what Houston looked like on Saturday with a coaching transition, and that was an in-house coaching transition, with both coordinators staying on, and the Cougars were absolutely lost in their bowl game, and there were no adjustments, and San Diego State made adjustments, and that game turned into a blowout where the dog just beat them up. So, Western Kentucky, they've hired former Notre Dame offensive coordinator Mike Sanford to replace Brom for next season, but he won't be the head coach for this game. It'll be Nick Holt coaching the Hilltoppers in an interim role. He was a defense coordinator all season for Western Kentucky.
Can Memphis keep up here? And what figures to be, Western Kentucky is going to score a lot of points. Can Memphis do the same?
Well, I mean, Memphis allowed, 44 points a game and 593 yards a game in their 5 games against bowl teams. Yikes. Defensively, they are problematic. But offensively, the Tigers can score. They can score with anyone. And we saw that when they beat Houston in the regular season finale. Riley Ferguson got on a nice roll down the stretch, more than 3,300 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions. And, of course, they've got a playmaking weapon on the outside, and Anthony Miller, 84 catches and 11 touchdowns. I wouldn't sell Mike Norvell's offense short. The Tigers can trade points with teams like Western Kentucky, even though Western Kentucky this year a good notch do better on both defense and special teams they've been in any recent season. All
right, one more. LiveOddsSportsBookReview.com. BYU Wyoming, Wednesday, 6 o'clock Pacific, Poinsettia Bowl. BYU 10, 56.5 the total. BYU loses Taysom Hill, their quarterback, in the closing win over Utah State. Tanner Magnum, I wouldn't call him an upgrade, but he could be a better fit for Detmer's offense, the OC.
Yeah, no question. I mean, this used to be a huge rivalry, BYU Wyoming, back in the day, back in the WAC. But that ended a long time ago. I'm sure there's not a kid on either roster that remembers when these two teams were rivals, and it's only the old-timers, some of whom will be going to the game, who would remember the intensity that used to be a BYU Wyoming game. But you talk about the difference between Taysom Hill and Tanner Mangum. And, I mean, Mangum, I think, might be the better fit when it comes to the passing schemes. He has plenty of experience. He started all of 2015 when Hill got early in the season. And he put up some good numbers, 3,300 passing yards, 60% completion, 7.5 yards per attempt, 23 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. And basically, Ty Detmer, Pauly, makes it pretty clear they're not going to change a whole lot in terms of their offensive strategy with Mangum behind center.
Yeah, let's throw that quote up there. Detmer quote will run a lot of the same stuff. Obviously, quarterbacks have different preferences and different things that they like. We'll try to stick with what Tanner feels most comfortable with, especially not having the most reps this year, but you also look at what he does the best and try to pair those two. That's excitement there. He's fired up to get the chance to be the guy. He's throwing after practice, doing all the things he can to make sure he's ready, end quote. I think Wyoming's got to be excited after the season they had, although they got beat in the Mountain West Conference title game at home. But Josh Allen, star quarterback, 26 touchdowns, and Brian Hill, their running back, 5.5 yards per carry, 21 touchdowns. a power back in the Mountain West, but how do you think they'll do against a pretty good defense?
Yeah, from all reports, both teams are excited to be here. This is not one of these bowl games that everyone's like, yeah, whatever. This is a game where Wyoming's viewing this as a reward, BYU's viewing this as a reward. So both teams are approaching it correctly. Now, Wyoming's been real good in the Mountain West, although I don't think the Mountain West was a particularly good conference this year, and I think there may well be money to be made betting against the Mountain West in bowl games. And the biggest concern that I have about Wyoming in a matchup against BYU, boy, you talk about size in the trenches. The Cougars, again, a lot of the kids been away on missions, come back, 22, 23, 24 years old. The Wyoming kids can't match their physicality, and I worry about you because, look, if Brian Hill can't run the football, Wyoming's in big trouble. And Hill was able to run on basically every defense in the Mountain West. If you can run on BYU, Wyoming's live. If you can't, they're in trouble.
Yes, up next, the deep dive. We recap the first 5 bowl games and a horrific beat in the early game. That's coming up on SportsBit. And, of course, the play of the day. Betting and Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts and shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
All right, back on SportsBit. Betting and Insight today. Deep dive now. College football. All 6 bowl games, we'll count the Celebration Bowl because we're going to talk about it in a second. All 6 bowl games go under, Teddy. How about that?
Yeah, and what you're going to see is that first Saturday was a bunch of games, and there's some kind of a trend comes out of it. Now everyone's paying attention. We've not seen the influx of over money for some of the early week games that I thought that we might. But 6 straight unders to start bowl season, and a real good day for the dogs. And I'm not going to count, when we're talking about favorites and underdogs, I'm not going to count the games lined at plus or minus 2 in that range. Teams that win the game cover the spread in that point spread range. That eliminates Toledo, App State. But the dogs went 3-1, 2 of them straight up victories. Southern Miss, the only chalk to cover. And, of course, the Golden Eagles, they were the first team we talked about when we did our bowl strategies that are going to make you money segment, the deep dive last Wednesday, that point spread trend, the bowl ATS trend that makes sense angle, that was 43-21. Well, now it's 44-21 after the Golden Eagles get the money.
And you were at the game. San Diego State gets the win. Pumphrey gets his record, sort of.
Well,
yeah.
Go on, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm going to say it's baffling because the real NCAA top 5, you can see it in the chart right here. It's Ron Dane, Tony Dorsett, Donnell Pumphrey, Ricky Williams, and Charles White. But Pumphrey is now listed as number 1 all-time rushing in the NCAA because why? They don't count bowls before 2002. Why don't they count bowls before 2002, Pauly? No reason. Just they don't. So, therefore, Pumphrey, even though he's really number 3, he got the record in the win over a discombobulated Houston team. San Diego State ran him out in the second half of that ball game.
Another winning week last week, and more winners in football. Here was our loser, though, in football. Bad beat. New Mexico, Texas, San Antonio. Oh, we laid 7 when we gave it out. They scored with 24 seconds left. There was a bogus PI call on 3rd and forever, and that was a tough beat as another team in through the back door.
Yeah, Roadrunners get the PI call and then the touchdown, as you mentioned, less than 30 seconds on the clock of what was a double-digit game at the time. Those beats are going to happen. You take your punch, you punch back. What are you going to do, Paul? Hate to lose those type of decisions, but they will happen. It doesn't matter what you do. You're going to take beats in some of these games. In bowl season, sometimes they punch you kind of hard. Be wary and don't let your emotions go crazy.
Like this one, Toledo, App State, tied at 28 early in the 4th quarter. It's 31-28, and the Toledo has the chip shot to tie it and send it to overtime. The kid misses it, 31-28 final.
No, wide right. Yeah, that's another thing that's going to happen in bowl season. You're going to lose or win multiple bets based on special teams. Somebody's going to return a kick, somebody's going to get a punt block, somebody's going to miss a field goal. They're difficult to handicap. We have to expect there is going to be some variance at this time of the year. And there's certainly variance if you had the Rockets. Tough beat for Toledo backers.
This was hilarious, and
Yeah.
Twitter was on fire Saturday morning. The Celebration Bowl with NC Central and Grambling. A team lost because of a celebration penalty.
Yeah.
The Central scores to make it 10-9, the touchdown. The kid goes crazy, takes his helmet off, goes crazy on the sidelines. They back him up, extra point, blocked. They blocked it, and Grambling wins 10-9. Oh, man.
I know nothing about NC Central and Grambling. Don't follow it at all. But the fact that a celebration penalty cost a team the Celebration Bowl is about as big as an F job as you can get. Sorry, guys. Oh, brutal.
Tough one here. I know, bad beat, bad bet, whatever you want to say. You were at the game. 10-0 Houston early, and we know a couple guys were out late partying here in Vegas. But this was, Ward, a ton of interceptions. There was a sequence in the fourth quarter where they ran 4 plays, and Ward was sacked on 3 of them. What happened in that game?
Once the San Diego State got the momentum, and it came out in the third quarter. It was, Ward drove him down just outside the red zone, picked. Next drive, Ward just outside the red zone, picked. Next drive, Ward, pick 6. And from that moment, from the pick 6, that game was over. All of a sudden, the San Diego State side was in the sun, the Houston side was in the shade, and it was, they were, you could stick a fork in the Cougars. They were waiting for the clock to tick, and it was a big celebration for the Aztecs. So it was one of those games, the momentum shifted, and when it shifted hard. You can see me smiling in this pick here, Pauly. That was when things were going good for the Cougs. That was early. See, still sunlight on that side. It wasn't that way late in the game.
How about the guy who tweeted at you?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I love it. Richard Belzer, Pauly. Alex Vance sent a tweet. Law and Order SVU? LVPD? He thought that I look a little bit like Belzer there. Do I? I suppose I do a little bit, Pauly.
I see it.
Who's
Yeah, I
your
see it.
celebrity
Yeah.
doppelganger?
Yeah, Christian Slater, I hear a lot.
Oh, yeah, that'll work. Let's see if we can get a Christian Slater
Throw
up
it
there.
up. Bam, there it is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. He's got a shave, though. I never see you walking around unshaved.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. All right, very good there. Looking forward. It's going to be a fun week of shows. All right, money time, play of the day. We are, 38-21 on the football season. Tampa Bay winner, the, Arkansas State under. 2 more winners last week. Let's keep it going. A great record so far in football. Back to Monday Night Football. Pizza money. We're not in love with this, but still. Betting number 331, Panthers +7. I told you that streak earlier. Amazing but true. The Redskins have lost 15 of their last 16 home games on Monday Night Football. And all the pressure's on the Redskins now because if they win out, they're in the playoffs. And Carolina can come in loosey-goosey. Newton a competitor. And I think they'll move the ball enough against the Redskins to keep this one close. Remember, we don't have to win. We just got to keep it close. So let's take the 7 in this one. Betting number 331 with the Panthers. Play of the day. Jimmy Vaccaro tomorrow. More bowl games. And we'll get to the NFL. Market moves, injury report. Hell, maybe another coach is gone as well. We said it Friday and it happened again, Teddy. Let's keep it going. We'll talk to you then on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.